Today we're going to talk about advanced double blank text completion questions on the GRE. So let's look at what marks these, how you can know you're dealing with one of these questions. Advanced vocabulary? Sometimes, but not necessarily. What you're always going to see here is misdirection and distraction in the sentence itself. So let's look at what I mean by that. Well, one thing you want to be careful about is don't assume that a double blank will be easy just because the words seem easy. Sometimes a GRE will try to lull you into a false sense of security so you don't even recognize you're dealing with an advanced blank sentence because the words look easy. So don't do that. If the vocabulary words are hard, so you do have those hard words, which sometimes happen, focus on the meaning of the whole sentence. And related to that, what you really want to do is you want to make sure that that hard vocabulary does not distract you. Focus on the words you understand. Focus on what you know, not what you don't know, because often your knowledge of vocabulary will get you through a sentence even if there are hard words in it. Okay, so in short, what do you want to look for to make sure you answer these correctly? Phrases or words that are superficially connected to wrong answers. So thematically similar words in the sentence and the answer choices that don't quite match the true intended meaning of the sentence. Beware of that. And you also want to avoid wrong answer choices that are similar to each other and almost fit. If you see three similar words for a blank, figure out which word is different and which word is the true fit. In other words, recognize answers that truly, clearly fit, and learn to recognize the answers that don't really fit, even when there's similarities. So let's look at how we can apply these principles we've discussed to an actual sample question. So pause the video, see if you can find the answers, and we'll talk about this. Welcome back. Okay, so something you might have noticed right away is this large opening portion of the sentence, which I'm setting aside in brackets right now. And the issue with this opening portion is that there's no clues right in here on how to answer the two blanks within it. So you have to look after the semicolon for a clue. And the first biggest clue that should jump out is that the last part of the sentence tells you what the government wants to do with the deer population. They want the population to go back down. So that should immediately tell you that you can know something about what they want to do to a ban on deer hunting. Because deer hunting causes the deer population to go down. So that's a good thing. That's what they want. So reversing should jump out at you right away. This answer choice A for blank 2. Reversing should jump out at you because if there's a ban in place and you reverse it, there's no longer a ban. The hunters can come back in, they can shoot the deer, and the deer population goes down. Now, B, prolonging, well, that'd be the opposite. You don't want the ban to actually be longer. You don't want to prolong it. And adopting is also the opposite of what you want, because that means starting a ban. So both of those are incorrect, but you could be misled a little here if you're not paying attention to the whole context of the sentence. Adopting means to take something on, to make it your own. You could mistakenly connect adopting to hired. Prolonging, that's a word indicating some sort of expansion. So you could actually mistakenly connect that to the idea of something being the most blank. So again, you want to look at that big picture. So with that in mind, let's look at blank 1. Where does the big picture lead us for blank 1 here? Well, we want to look at, again, what the government wants to do. They want to bring the deer population back down. And they want to bring it back down to a manageable number. Well, if something is not manageable, and it needs to be brought back down to manageable, that means it's unmanageable. It's creating chaos. So disruptive should jump out at you. Again, though, it's easy to get fooled. The answer is C, disruptive, but what if you look at sparse and you say, hey, the population should go down, right? A population that's down is sparse. If you're not looking at the big picture, you make a false connection, you accidentally get tricked into the wrong answer. You don't want sparse. Similarly, tractable means changeable. And you could say, well, tractable, I saw the phrase this change. So doesn't that mean that tractable is right? Well, not really. It doesn't make sense that just because the deer population is most able to change, it needs to go down. Disruptive creates more of an absolute need for the population to go down. So again, don't get distracted. Always look at the big picture rather than the small stuff. Okay, so now we're going to look at a second example where the vocabulary is advanced, but you can still use the same principles I've already explained to you to solve this one as well. So pause the video, put in your answers, and we'll talk about this. Right, so let's see how you did here. Okay, so if you've read the sentence, the Prime Minister has done something in relation toward his critics. So people are criticizing him. And that thing is ironic. There's an irony to this situation described in the first half of the sentence. And that irony will play into the second blank. Well, what is being held up as ironic? We don't quite know what the Prime Minister has done yet, but we know that he has critics. And these critics are publishing their criticism of him. So they're speaking very freely, right? And something in the second half of the sentence is ironic in light of the fact that there's that free speech. Well, what makes it ironic? Well, it says he has policies supporting free speech, free and open political expression, and that something in the way he behaves toward the people who criticize him is ironic in light of that. Well, if his policies support free speech, but his behavior is ironic in relation, what we're really seeing here is that he must be in some way not supporting free speech or opposing it. Now, here's the tricky part. This blank 1, these are low-frequency, harder vocabulary words. So instead of looking at what's going on in blank 1 right away, let's actually jump down to blank 2. Okay, so it says that his policies toward free speech support it. And they are at worst, well, at their very worst, they're probably still supporting it. So minimally restrictive should jump out at you as a potentially correct answer, because if the worst he is minimally restrictive, that's consistent with him supporting free speech and it being ironic that he's doing something different than supporting it in the first part of the sentence. Okay, so minimally restrictive is likely right, but let's look at this word worst. This word worst was put in here to mislead you, because caustic means very mean. If somebody's caustic, they're being mean, they're being awful. If you're caustic toward free speech, you're limiting it. So it could be tempting to choose caustic, but that's the opposite of what we actually want. Draconian means limiting something in an unkind or unfair way. And again, draconian could easily connect to the word worst if you're not careful, but that's also incorrect. Okay, so let's look at what's going on then. Blank 2 is C. What is blank 1? Well, let's try to go with the easiest word first, the word you're most likely to know, commensurate. Commensurate means equal to or similar to. So if he's taking a commensurate public stance, he's criticizing his critics. Well, is that really the case, though? Would that be ironic? Well, no, that would be him saying, oh, I have free speech too. I can say what I want. You can say what I want. So there's no irony there. So commensurate, it might be almost tempting to select that because you'd say, well, he's pushing back against his critics. That must be ironic. But it's an equal pushing back and it's just speaking freely. So that doesn't quite work. What about obsequious? The next probably easiest word of these hard words. Well, if you're obsequious, you're very submissive and just letting people do what they want to do. Well, it wouldn't be ironic if he's being gentle toward his critics. That wouldn't be ironic in light of the fact that he supports free speech. That would just match it. So there's no irony there. Now, obsequious, you could accidentally match it to the idea that he supports free speech. But remember, there's an irony there. Don't be misled. Well, you get truculent by process of elimination. And truculent means angry and taking a fighting stance. And it's the most difficult word in this entire prompt. But if you pay attention to the words you're more likely to know, you can get to truculent by process of elimination. So there you have it. We've navigated two of these advanced double blank questions using the techniques that I taught you.